Alright, so it's been a while since I looked at the main series Spyro game, so let's start this with Enter the Dragonfly. This was the first mainline Spyro game to not be developed by Insomniac, and the second overall Spyro game to not be developed by Insomniac, since Spyro Season of Ice predates Enter the Dragonfly by a whole year. And it's also the first game that went multi-platform too. So after Insomniac made the first 3 games, they decided to move on and create Ratchet & Clank, which is a pretty good series, even though I've only played 3 games, and 2 games I haven't finished yet. Anyway, most people think that the main reason why Insomniac stopped developing for Spyro was because they ran out of ideas for what to do with him, since he doesn't have any hands and can't hold anything. I'm not going to argue with that or say that it's true, but I can see why people would think that, since it would explain why there's so many different styles of gameplay in Spyro 3. Anyway, Insomniac made the IP for Spyro, but Universal owns the right, and because they learned absolutely nothing from Wrath of Cortex, they hired a completely new development studio with no experience whatsoever, and made them make a completely new game and only gave them 11 months to develop it to get it released for a holiday 2002 deadline. Apparently this game has gone through multiple rewrites because Universal just couldn't decide on what they wanted for this game. The studios that got to develop this game were Anionauts and Check 6.
Who?
Joel Goodcell wanted to give Spyro a tone update from PS1 to PS2, but Universal made them redesign the game design document to make it a little bit more traditional to Spyro by having returning villains like Ripto and Nasinor teaming up to defeat Spyro. But then when Universal saw this doc, they just said that it's just standard Spyro design. So they went back to the drawing board, and Godsell made a Zelda-like design hub towns and surrounding open world filled with changing seasons, kind of like Ocarina of Time. So then Universal signed off on that idea in January 2002, but they never gave them any feedback. So since the game had to be out by November 2002 deadline, Universal, instead of just delaying the game, just said fuck it and decided to have the team polish the prototype build of the game. And because of that, multiple story beats and level assets were either tweaked or just thrown out the window. The game came out on November 5th, 2002 on PS2, and November 19th, 2002 on GameCube, and this game has been bashed to death by the Spyro fanbase just because of how many hopes it shattered in the community. Even when it first came out, the game got destroyed, getting a 3.2% on GameSpot and a 48% on Metacritic. And no joke, even Ted Price, the president of Insomniac, hated the game, saying, and I quote, "Spyro has become an abused stepchild." I'm starting to notice a pattern here. This game was also the runner-up for the worst game on GameCube, so I think that speaks volumes on why you should never give a new development studio a limited time to do things. I have only heard hate towards this game, and it just isn't liked that much among the fans. And even though I personally haven't played this game until this video, just like with Wrath of Cortex, but like every other game that I've played that has a bad reputation, I'm willing to give it a chance just for this video. Plus this year's the 20th anniversary of this game, so now's the perfect time to do this, so let's dive into Enter the Dragonfly. And also, yes, I'm playing this off of PC Access 2. I know I already have a PS2, an Elgato, and an upscaler, so it doesn't really make sense for me to do this, but I don't have a copy of the game, so shut up.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
The story starts off with Hunter getting scared over a floaty of the sorceress, and the cutscene and voice acting doesn't sync together, so I had to fix that, and that might be PC Access 2's fault and not the game, but still. This is how the cutscene would have played if I just left it alone.
They sure do look happy, don't they, Spyro?
Well, it's not every day that a dragon gets a dragonfly.
Anyway, Spyro and his friends are celebrating the baby dragon getting their first dragonflies, but Allura is nowhere in sight. I started to notice how Allura is becoming less and less important as the games go on, because she was only seen at the end of Year of the Dragon, and she's not even in this game or A Hero's Tale. Anyway, everything seems to be going well until Ripto shows up and crashes the party, and no one really looks surprised that he's back or even asks how he's here since we burned him in lava 2 games ago. I guess Ripto has Bowser syndrome, where no matter how many times he burns, he just keeps coming back with no scratches on him, or sometimes he just comes back as a giant skeleton. So now we're off. So far, it doesn't look too bad. The colorful landscapes translate pretty well into PS2, and it looks like something you would see in a Spyro game. Anyway, we move in.
Here, take this dragon rune to the dragon spirit over there. With this rune, he'll be able to combine dragon magic with my magic.
Okay, thanks Bianca. Now we're going to try to collect the gem in. Thanks Bart, but you didn't need to tell me. I already know that you could just pick them up. Alright, there's Hunter, let's try to talk to him then. Sparks, I know how to charge basket. You don't have to stop me dead in my tracks to tell me. So we talked to Hunter in.
Hey, Spyro! You know, if you press the X button to jump, then press the X button again in midair, you can glide!
Wow, that would have been helpful if I hadn't already played a Spyro game before. So then we shot a flame of sheep for butterflies. Like, god damn it, Sparks, I can flame the sheep while you telling me! Why are there so many tutorials in this game? Even if you haven't played a Spyro game before, you don't need the game telling you to do everything. And we just started playing too! So the best way I can describe this game is that So you know how a lot of people call Wrath of Cortex a poor man's warp? Well, Enter the Dragonfly is basically the poor man's Year of the Dragon. I guess Animalrock's Games Check 6 just thought to themselves, okay, we don't have a lot of time to make this game, let's try to do what Spyro 3 did and just add a bunch of mini games and maybe a couple of platforming challenges, but let's not get too ambitious because again, we're at a crunch for time. That's the best way I can sum up this game, but I might as well just go more into depth because that's what you all are here for. Okay, let's just get into the first level. We're in Dragon Dojo and— oh god damn it, another text flow? I know Spyro is an easy franchise, but there wasn't this much hand-holding in the older games. Anyway, when you first start controlling Spyro, everything looks like a standard Spyro game. You're running around large levels, you're collecting gems, you're flaming sheep, and you're charging enemies too, but all just feels weirder compared to the original trilogy and maybe even reignited too. Spyro kind of feels awkward to control. He doesn't turn as sharply as he did before, charging enemies doesn't really have the same impact as before, and jumps are harder to pull off now too. And for some fucking reason, he doesn't always have a shadow when he's flying, making it harder to know where you're gonna land. And sometimes he just gets locked in place for no reason and just doesn't move at all, even if you're mashing the shit out of every single button on your controller. He has all the moves that he had in the older games. He can still head bash even though there's no use for it here. And he can still flap his wings at the height of his jumps to reach places easier. I think that's what it does here because the thing almost never works for me. Spyro also has some new moves that he can use, like these new elemental breaths. Ice, which does exactly what it sounds. Electric, which also does exactly what it sounds. A wing shield, which again does exactly what it sounds. And bubbles, which are used for catching the dragonflies. The dragonflies are the main collectibles of this game. There's 10 of them in each level and you need to use your bubble breath to catch them, but it's so finicky. The hitbox with these guys are so precise and the dragonflies are always running away from you. Bianca says that's because they're scared, which is complete bullshit because they're always taunting you every time you miss them. And sometimes you just stand there and just do nothing. And some of these guys' names are just really stupid. Like, what kind of name is Krishnamurti? And this one's just named Shadow, but okay. And by the way, whether you like it or not, you're gonna hear Spyro saying the names of the dragonflies over and over again. I mean, it's helpful if you want to know how to pronounce all the dragonflies in this game, if you want to know all the names of the dragonflies in this game. The gems also come back in this game too, and they serve the exact same purpose as they did in the older games, but for some reason the values can be really messed up. Especially the yellow gems, because sometimes they count up to 10 gems like the PS1 games, and other times they just count up to 25 like the purple gems. I mean, sometimes they just amount up to 0. The hell? There's usually 7,000 to 8,000 in a level, and I should probably get to the levels themselves, and honestly, this is the part of the game that feels the most half-assed to me. The Dragon Realms hub world is the only hub world in this game, and there's only 8 levels. It's honestly kind of fun to me how Enter the Dragonfly, a game that came out in 2002, has less content than the first game that came out in 1998. Spyro 1 alone has 6 hub worlds, 17 levels, and if you're counting speedway levels and boss levels or nasty loot, that's 29 levels, and even though they're pretty bite-sized, it takes way longer to fully complete Spyro 1 than it would to fully complete Enter the Dragonfly. Now to be fair, there was originally going to be 25 levels in this game, so there might have been a lot they could have added here, but it's probably a good thing that this game is as short as it is because Enter the Dragonfly's level design is some of the most boring and blandest I've ever experienced in a platformer. You're just traveling in a circle and then the level just ends. And these levels are just so empty because they're massive and don't have a lot to interact with. Every level feels like the same thing over and over again. Just run in a circle and collect dragonflies. You would think that there would be a lot to add with the bigger levels in this game, but instead it just drags on to the point where I didn't even bother getting everything in this game. It's just so draining. And this is only 8 levels. If the rest of the 17 levels that were cut were going to be like this, then it's a good thing that the game doesn't drag on longer than it already does. And characters from previous games don't appear for any longer than 2 minutes. Moneybags appears once in one level, takes all her gems, and just never comes back. The same with Bianca. She's all up in the opening cutscene a few more times after that, then comes back to the end of the game, and that's it. The only character that's actually reoccurring is Hunter, and he's just being himself. But the portals to the levels aren't even that visually nice either. In the older games, it looked like you were traveling inside to the levels, but here, it's just a basic portal, and the loading screens on PS2 take for fucking ever. The original trilogy never took this long to load up a level. Even the GBA games are faster in comparison. Like, look at this. Then look at Enter the Dragonfly. This game just breezes by! Even the hubbles don't have a lot to do. They're massive, and you collect gems and do the same challenge of just flaming things for a dragonfly. Then we get to the speedways, and for some reason, they're not individual levels, and they're just inside a normal level, which is kind of weird how one of the most iconic parts of the series are just reduced to being mini games. I never really liked the speedway levels in Spyro 1 and 2, but the ones in this game are just goddamn annoying. Spyro Spyro is way too sensitive while turning. If you tap the analog stick into another direction just a little bit, Spyro just lobs his way into the other direction like a 5-year-old high on caffeine. And the hitboxes on some of these things are just really janky. Like, there's jank all over this game. Like, the game just refusing to register my jumps, and let's just move on. Now we get to the minigames, and I know the different minigames in Spyro 3 weren't for everyone, but I would happily play 50 minigames from Year of the Dragon than a single one in Enter the Dragonfly. Let's start with this cow abduction mission. You have to do this twice, and the second you have other UFO ships constantly shooting at you the moment you try to pick up a cow, and your ship is so slow too. It takes like an hour to pick up the cows and then put them in the barn. And then there's the stupid ass tank mission, which is how you shoot at targets and other tanks, and if you leave yourself open, you can just get completely gang up on and you will die in a second. The only way I got through this minigame with little damage, I had to stop dead in my tracks to just shoot the tanks in first person view, and I do it from far away so I don't get comboed, but it's so goddamn slow. Then we got this one minigame from Cloud 9 where you have to shoot down the boats and with this biplane, and it's so slow and repetitive, and it gives me flashbacks to that one level when we're at the Cortex. This fucking slide, who thought this was a good idea? Now, the slide in Spyro 3 was kinda sketchy, but it was nowhere near as bad as it is here. Spyro could jump like complete ass because he somehow has a combination of both slippery and stiff. It's so easy to miss flags, which gives you more time on the slide. It's so hard to make jumps. It's easy to slip off the slide and just go like, FUCK! And sometimes Spyro can just clip through ramps for no reason. And there's also a second version of this minigame, and it's just the same thing, but you have to do it in less time because that's always fun. And then there's this platforming challenge, which shouldn't be too bad, but because Spyro controls like roadkill in this game, you're gonna be falling off a platform because you didn't turn around in time or you just slip off the platform. The challenges in this game just aren't fun. If I played this game when I did the Sports Spyro challenges video, every minigame in this game would have been on that list. But alright, I spent enough time bitching. We've done every level in this game, then let's fight Ripto. Wait, already? We don't even fight Crush and Gulp? He's the only boss in the game? I mean, a cutscene plays when you're halfway through the game where Ripto just kills Crush and Gulp. I can't tell because he just zaps them, they flip over like cows, and that's about it. Anyway, we fight Ripto in a ridiculously easy boss fight. All you do is charge him, then attack, rinse and repeat until you beat Ripto, and that's it. But to actually see how this game ends, you have to go for 100% completion, and since I completely refuse to do that, we're just gonna look it up. And all you got when you torture yourself for 4 hours is just an ending where Spyro winks at you, and then the credits roll. Bart feels like he's getting ripped in half. It's crazy to me how this game, when it first came out, cost $50, and someone, somewhere, actually paid that much for this game. Alright, if I can be positive for a little bit, the graphics in this game aren't too bad. They're actually really good because the landscapes look like something from a Spyro game, and they really translate well from PS1 to PS2, and the texture work is really good looking too. But of course with this game, with all good things come bad things. The game tries to run at 60 frames per second. I put massive emphasis on tries to because this game fucking chugs when there's a lot of shit on screen, or when you're charging into enemies. Sometimes it drops to what it feels like 5 frames per second. If the graphics have to take a hit for the game to run better, then let it take a hit, because I would rather have it run at a smoother 30 FPS with weaker graphics than have better graphics and the game struggle to run at 60. I can just smell the PS2 and GameCube catching on fire trying to process everything. Sometimes the game isn't too off from looking like a slideshow, but while I'm bashing the graphics, that's not the only technical issue with this game. Glitches. It's the main complaint people bring up when they're criticizing this game. There's glitches everywhere in Enter the Dragonfly. That's my new nickname for this game. Spyro enters the glitch dimension. While I personally haven't run into any glitches that most people run into, I guess emulation makes this game stable. But all you have to do is go into the search bar, type in Enter the Dragonfly glitches, and there's literally compilations of them. Sometimes waterfalls will just stop falling when Spyro looks at them. You can even run inside solid objects. Dragonflies will just disappear. Entire levels just don't even load, and you can just start swimming in the air by head bashing water. You get stuck on ladders, and enemies will just get locked in place too. And because this game has next to no programming in it, you can just fight the final boss when you start the game. All you have to do is head bash this part of the portal, phase through the ground, and then you're at Ripto. The fastest speedrun in this game is 1 minute and 7 seconds. Sonic 06 wasn't even that broken. And it doesn't even stop at glitches either. The character models look like they've been beaten to death with an ugly stick. How does a game from 1998 and with weaker technology look better than this 2002 game with stronger technology? And no, don't say that it's an early PS2 game because Sly Cooper came out 2 months before this game, and Ratchet & Clank came out on the same month too. And even if you look at games that came out before, there was already games like Metal Gear Solid 2, Klonoa 2, Devil May Cry, Silent Hill, Jak and Daxter, and Eco. Just look at Spyro here. One game without Insomniac and he's already losing himself. Bianca probably got the worst of it. I honestly don't get why 100 would want to date a girl who looks like this, because she looks scarier than any other villain in the series thus far. Then there's Ripto and ugh. Oh wow, no, and I take out what I just said. He got the worst of it. Those mouth animations are enough to give any child nice hearers. And now we got, oh my god! The baby dragons look even worse than the adults here. Hunter is the only normal one here, but even then... At least the soundtrack is pretty good. Stuart Copeland returns again to make this soundtrack, and it's not as good as Spyro 2 or 3, but it still has that feel to it. When you listen to it, you just go like, yeah, this is a song for Spyro. But the sound design is just awful. Some of the sounds that the characters make don't even line up with their voices. Some songs just don't even play, and what the fuck happened to Bianca's voice?
Drat, that didn't exactly work right. I'm still learning, you know, Spyro.
It just makes her even creepier than he already was before, and... So if I haven't made it obvious enough, I really don't like this game at all. If all the ideas that the game had once in the development stage actually made it to the final game, and if Universal didn't make a first-time development studio rush the game out to meet a holiday deadline, then I'm sure it would have been better than it is now, but I'm not going to give the game slack because of what it could have been. I'm judging this game by the finished product, and this is easily the worst Spyro game I've played so far. It had a lot of potential to be the best Spyro game so far, and I don't doubt that, but rush development or not, Spyro Enter the Dragonfly from a design standpoint, and from a technical standpoint too, is a complete mess. It has some of the most bland level design in the entire series, it has terrible design mini-games, it's one of the most unfinished and broken games I've ever seen. The graphics look worse than the older games that came out before, even though it came out on stronger hardware. The frame rate is atrocious, and it's just overall not a fun game. I can find things that I like about it, but only in concept. When I heard the reputation that the game had, I just thought the game will probably be bad, but I'll probably have fun breaking it wide open. But since I can't activate any of the glitches on emulation, this game just doesn't really have anything going for it. This game was really hard to write for because there's just almost nothing going on in these levels. At least with Wrath of Cortex, I'm always entertained in some way with the game constantly switching up styles, so I'm never bored. And I can't believe I'm using this game as a positive example, but Jak and Daxter: The Lost Frontier actually has more of a game inside that I can probably tear into and just go on about why the game sucks. Enter the Dragonfly just bored me to death with its empty levels and repetitive structure, and when it's not doing that, it's frustrating the fuck out of me with its terrible minigames and awful controls. If you want to play this, go ahead, but don't buy it on eBay, just emulate it. Your money's probably better spent getting steak or something, I don't fucking know. Anyway, because I Enter the Dragonfly's reviews, Enwinox shut down, and the leader of the project went on to be part of the team who made Spider-Man PS4, and that's a massive glow up. You go from making a game that pretty much killed an entire franchise to one of the most critically acclaimed games on PS4. It's probably a good thing that we're out of this era of the series, because this was way rougher for Spyro than it was for Crash. The only reason why I say probably is because it's been 4 years since Reignited first came out, and we still haven't gotten any Spyro-related content ever since.
Well, I did a tier list ranking all the girls in this series and played probably the worst game in the franchise, and somehow this is the best Spyro month I've done so far. But that's all the Spyro calls I have for y'all right now, so we're gonna come back with a Sly Cooper marathon with Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves. So until that video comes out, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.